Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the regular council meeting of April 25th to order. We ask council for approval of the agenda, please, with the inclusion of the supplementary blue information. Moved by Councillor Pearson, seconded by Councillor Berger. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay. First order of business is adoption of the council and committee of the whole meeting minutes from April the 11th. Moved adoption by Councillor Casper. Second by Councillor Berger. Any errors, omissions, comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. And that brings us to our delegations. We have two.
Just the first one that you moved, or both of them? Sorry.
Microphone, they were both moved together.
Oh, then there was a correction on the second one. I thought it was just the first one you moved. On page 5, on RI2.
We have adopted them, but I think we should make the correction. The committee of the whole minutes.
Page 5.
Page 5. Yep.
Regional Capital District Board, R1I2. RI2. It says carried unanimously, and I was opposed to it and asked for my vote to be recorded.
So we're looking at, oh, pardon me, I'm looking at the regular council meeting minutes. Or I'm looking at the committee of the whole minutes.
This,
4 or 5.
this
Okay,
was the
just,
minutes of the
correct-
regular.
Okay.
And then on page 6, RA2.
Yep.
For the SIG program for the arts, it said that they were going to develop a detailed list of staff requirements for Communities in Bloom. I was under the impression that there was not going to be any staff support. Is that correct?
Okay.
Yes, actually correct. It just should be a detailed list of requirements.
Pardon me?
Should be a detailed list of requirements, not staff requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And
so
that'd be it.
Anything else, Councillor Parkinson?
Nope. Thank you.
Okay. Do we need to move those again because they've been amended?
If it's a friendly amendment, I think that's fine.
That's fine? Okay. Okay. So now we will move into our delegations. We have 2 this evening, each with a 5-minute time limit on each. So I'll welcome the first one, Mr. David Babbage of Shadow West Security. Thank you.
Where is that on the agenda? Oh, we're done.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and District Council. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm David Babbage, owner of Shadow West Security. I've been living in Souk for the last 20 years. I started Shadow West Security 10 years ago. I have 23 years experience in the private security industry. Shadow West Security is the only fully licensed and insured security company in Souk. I served my country in the Royal Canadian Navy for 14 years. During that, I was a member of the Base Auxiliary Security Force and the Base Nuclear Emergency Response Team, both at CFB Esquimalt.
Sorry, Mr. Babbage. Pardon me. I'm sorry for a moment. Can someone please set the timer?
Oh, I guess I didn't do it right. Oh,
Sorry, there it is.
Sorry.
Pardon me. Sorry about
That's
that. I
okay.
just want to make sure you had
Yeah.
that.
Like me to start again?
No.
Okay. All right. Yeah, okay, so I'll just carry on here. Shadow West Security started out providing first aid and site safety to residential construction sites here in Souk, and it soon became apparent that we needed security as well on those work sites, so we implemented security patrols there. We provide residential and business mobile patrols, alarm responses on behalf of Price's Alarms between East Souk, Souk and Shirley. We do various gate patrols for private clients, CRD park gate patrols, individual residential home patrols, individual residential vacation home patrols, and we provide static guards on site at campgrounds in Souk and Port Renfrew. For the past 5 years, we have also provided traffic control personnel plus equipment for various contracts in Souk. Shadow West Security has developed into a one-stop shop for all your needs, providing highly trained local individuals to suit all your requirements. With the increasing crime rate over the past year in Souk and surrounding areas, when dealing with trespassers, suspicious vehicles, persons, Shadow West Security has a 95% compliance rate when we have asked these individuals to leave these sites. The other 5% are vehicles that we could not locate the registered owner, or sometimes individuals that refuse to leave. So in that case, we just contact the RCMP for assistance. And what we would like to do here is provide to the community a nighttime mobile patrol for on all the residential streets, 2 to 4 hours in duration, 7 days a week, going as far west as Grant and Aranan Estates, Otter Point, Young Lake Road, Broom Hill, Sun River, east to Harborview and Sioux Road, and then again Harborview, Sioux Road, all the way out to West Coast Road on the south side. We are very interested and always willing to assist our community with the needs in the protection of life and property. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Babbage. Comments or questions from council? Councillor Parkinson.
I was just curious through you, Mayor, how many employees do you have to be able to do the patrols?
It varies on amount of clients. Right now, I'm out primarily myself, and I have another guard that's out doing some gates. We do some gates out for the CRD in East Sioux Park and Matheson Lake. So right now, we just did a static guard patrol at the dental clinic for the Academy Dental today, where I utilized 2 extra guards. And we can be as large as the community wants us to be, or as small as we are. We're always willing to grow as the requirements are there.
Thank you.
Councillor Pearson.
Thank you, Mr. Babbage, for your presentation. I guess I have a couple questions for you. What's your interface with the RCMP? Like in a situation where something's escalating beyond just normal security, what's your connection to the RCMP? Do you have a hotline to them, or a radio contact, or a cell?
I have a cellular contact with them.
Okay.
And I have talked with them on many occasions, and I think they appreciate what I do for them. I kind of take care of the smaller things so they can focus on the larger elements that may arise from night to night.
Good. And is the purpose of you coming here tonight just to kind of explain to us that your service is available to the District of Sioux?
Yes.
Okay, good. I think that there's certainly an opportunity to be using some private firms, because I think eyes on the street is proven are an effective deterrent to some criminals. So excellent. So thank you for your service in the community. I know you scared me when I was out looking at the eclipse there one night, and you jumped out of the bush. But anyways, no, I appreciate what you're doing in the community. It's well known of your service. So thank you for your presentation tonight.
Councillor Casper.
So you'd be able to complement services of the RCMP by being additional eyes and ears, correct?
Yes, sir.
And with that, as you well know, we have a number of small, medium, large public parks that are owned by the District of Sioux, and there's large commercial areas that are readily open to the public, i.e. parking lots and back alleyways, et cetera. So are those the types of services that you could offer to the district?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And would you have the ability to work with our staff or to bring forward a proposal of some sort?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, so just in terms of where we go with this, there is a proposal in terms of the services that you're offering. I'm just not seeing what a rate for that service would be.
I can provide it. I just didn't put it down on the paper, but I can easily provide it. Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Sullivan.
Thank you, through the chair. I think what I'd like to see happen is for staff to work with Mr. Babbage to pull together a proposal for council to consider at our next meeting.
Okay.
And that will have some more detailed analysis in with respect to costs.
Okay. Would you like a motion for that? Okay. Councillor Pearson?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that in keeping with our security or with our strategic plan is that we explore options to provide security to the public and being creative, because I know that other municipalities, and I'm going to get long-winded here before, so Mr. Joseph has to type fast, is that, there's other municipalities that have employed private firms to be the eyes on the street, which actually is at a more affordable rate, but they don't have the
Actually,
police.
Councillor Pearson,
Sorry.
can you complete the motion?
Okay, good.
And then we can second it
Thanks.
and discuss it? Okay.
Okay, perfect.
So the motion was,
To direct staff to look at augmenting security in the community with
Okay.
Mr. Babbage.
do we have a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Parkinson. Okay, now, as you were saying,
Now I'm allowed to talk? No, I know that other municipalities have augmented the RCMP with eyes and ears on the street, and our neighbors just to the east of us are doing that right now, and very successfully, according to the press. So, anyways, I think it's something worth looking at because it does support our strategic plan. Thanks.
and then perhaps Ms. Sullivan, as the staff report comes together, is maybe just get some feedback from Staff Sergeant MacArthur, just so I think that he's in the loop in terms of what we're looking at doing. Okay. Any other comments or questions on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you very much
Babbage.
for your time.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Okay. That's a good note. Okay, our next delegation is Pivotal IRM Inc., the Advanced Gasification of Waste. Welcome. And if I may ask, when you speak into the microphone, you just need to come a little bit closer to it. And you'll just need to turn it on, please.
Turn it on. Perfect.
Good evening and welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, councillors, for giving me this opportunity to speak to you. It's come out of discussions that I've been having with the Saanich Peninsula Sewage Treatment Plant, in that they're looking at ways to economically deal with the sewage sludge that is generated there, and was seeing the motions that were passed by Souk, I don't know whether it's a month ago, about taking your own sewage treatment plant in-house. I just thought it would be a good idea to come out here and talk about what is happening at the CRD and on the peninsula, and to see whether something like this would be a good mix for your community. What do I aim this at? Oh, it's not. I'm getting good at this. So the CRD has created, over a number of years, has finally created a task force on integrated resource management. And that's a concept of looking at all of the wastes that are generated within a region and looking at the most optimum business case onto how you would treat and deal with those wastes. And it means integration between solid and liquid wastes to see where the overlaps are. And as I said, the opportunity out here, if you are looking at a local utility for yourselves, this could be a very welcome. And just let me point out, the building in the picture is actually a gasification plant that is not operating at the moment, but it was built in Dockside Green. What is gasification? Number one, it is not incineration. It is the complete opposite of what incineration is. It requires heat and steam for the chemical reactions to occur in gasification. It's about pulling apart the molecules of solid materials and converting them into gases. And those gases, a lot of them are energy. They contain energy, like hydrogen, carbon monoxide, and small chain volatile hydrocarbons. Those items, when they're gasified, are then cleaned, and then passed on to an internal combustion engine that generates electricity, and the emissions are similar to burning a natural gas boiler that is in pretty much every tall multifamily building in the community, in the Greater Victoria community. The technology, we have had it reviewed by the Ministry of Energy, and it complies with the Clean Energy Act, and we've had it reviewed by BC Hydro, and it complies with their terms and conditions under the Standing Offer Program. A circle draft gasifier is a combination of updraft, downdraft. These are advanced gasifiers because typically gasifiers need a very uniform feedstock. However, these ones are built to be multi-fuel, and you can vary your feedstock within reason on a daily basis, hourly basis, but obviously they are designed around the type of materials you've got. The output from a single unit is 500 kilowatts and about 790 kilowatts of heat. As I said, the emissions are like natural gas boilers. There is char and ash. That's a sterilized product that comes out the bottom. Could be used as fertilizers. Depending on the metal, heavy metal content, if it is not suitable to go on land, you would put it into concrete or asphalt, something of that nature. And it's an incredible process for reducing your greenhouse gases. Looking after your waste in your community represents about 15%, could represent about a 15% reduction of your total greenhouse gas production. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. I know you have electronic copies. This is just the history of these particular gasifiers. This is a slide that relates to the multi-fuel capability and, in fact, the polygeneration of output products. We focus on heat and electricity because it's simplest. Oh, these are fancy slides. This is by far the lowest cost option for sewage sludge disposal and waste management. It compares very favorably against anaerobic digestion for sewage and certainly landfilling and landfilling of solid waste. I know I'm going to run out of time, so I'm going to flip through these quite quickly. One of the big things that is happening at the federal and provincial levels is that borrowing by municipalities is going to be geared in the future very much on your greenhouse gas programs and the reductions that you're achieving as a community. And to have a program like this in your community would set you up very well to get your federal and provincial grants in the future. In fact, it will become a requirement. So, and then I've got a couple of slides here on how you might go about looking at your opportunity with preliminary studies and detailed feasibility studies. And we have a very competent team around us that, there's another study that just walks through the process of study and the kinds of services that we provide and the kinds of people that we have involved in our technology and the opportunity around greenhouse gas reductions at the community level. Thank you very much. I'm sorry it was so quick, but
No, thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Bethel. We appreciate having the information to look through as well. Just a question, though, in terms of the feedstock, so this would be for both potentially sludge as well as garbage, like any.
yes, it could be.
It could be for any garbage, household
Any,
garbage.
yes, any carbon-based materials or carbonic material, whether it's kitchen scraps, municipal solid waste, sewage sludge, waste wood, all of that material can be gasified very easily.
Okay, is there a minimum amount, like in
Yes,
terms of?
yes. The smallest size requires about 11 tons of material a day.
Okay, I'm curious. I wonder what I don't know what our SUC as a whole output for
Yeah, I don't know either.
for
I
all
could,
of that would look like.
given time,
Yeah.
I could quickly get those answers for you, but your population is around, what, 12,000?
12,600 or so, and then
How many? Sorry.
about 12,600.
12,000, yeah.
And then all of the garbage pickup is done through private haulers.
Yes. There would be some intricate contractual arrangements that would have to be made,
Yeah.
but I don't think those are impossible to arrange.
No, because none of it is here. Ms. Sullivan.
I'd just like to say if council's interested, staff are more than happy to work with Mr. Bethel to come up with a staff report on this matter and bring it back to council for your consideration.
I think it's very timely myself. Wondering, council, for comments or questions? Councillor Loggins, then Pearson.
Thanks for coming and thanks for your time. And providing us with a little bit more information on this. I just have a couple of questions. How much space does something like this require? Is it similar to the photo of the Dockside Green?
Yes, it's pretty much like the footprint of Dockside Green. The actual gasifiers have an 8-foot square footprint. They do extend about 3.5 stories tall.
Okay. And do you know how much approximately it would cost to put together a small?
I've got some ideas around it, but until I really know, because we're going to probably have to end up making a slightly smaller one than our small units to suit a community like Souk. So that'll be a custom job, so it's going to have its own implications.
Okay. And you mentioned at the beginning that the Dockside Green was not in operation. Why is that?
Strangely enough, I was there, commissioned and operated that gasifier for its first 3 years of operation. It was built too early in the project schedule. It was too big for the number of houses or units that got built, and so it could only operate at about 20% capacity. Well, gasifiers, unfortunately, cannot get throttled back from 100% down to 20 and make them work properly. It also had other difficulties with the type of design they had on handling the feedstock, and hence it required a very expensive pulp-grade chip, small chip, whereas people have learned gasifiers today are a little more robust and can handle little bits of branches and bigger material, and so it doesn't clog up the way that one does.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Pearson?
So it sounds interesting. Where is the technology in use now that would be, you said 11 tons per day is the smallest. Where would be an 11-ton machine or a gasifier operating?
In California.
In California. Mm-hmm. And what's the output? Is that the 500 kilowatts?
That's the 500 kilowatt, 790 thermal, yeah.
Okay. So when you translate 500 kilowatts back into the system, what is that the equivalent of? 100 houses, 200 or?
500 kilowatt, yeah, about 250 houses.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in selling kilowatt hours?
200. Let's go 200.
Okay.
I don't want to go
So selling kilowatt hours, what would be the, do we have a price on what Hydro would pay if we feed that back into the grid?
Yes. Hydro, under the standing offer program, it's online. You can go check it out. They set a price, and I believe it was January 1st, 2010, at 10.06 cents with inflation since that time. So it's approaching 11 cents a kilowatt hour right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that would run 24/7?
24/7, yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions.
Councillor Casper?
So, yes, you're aware, yes, you mentioned about the CRD actually forming a select committee to deal with IRM.
Yes, we follow that very closely.
So, we actually did that last Wednesday.
Yeah.
I take it when the committee meets this week, this Wednesday, and they go through their terms of reference and they get the ball rolling. As you're well aware, they are actually going to be making some recommendations to the board on timing, on a process in which they would seek proposals from a wide range of service providers, including you.
Yes.
On IRM and our waste stream. So you did mention the Saanich Peninsula, working with them.
Yeah.
So are you hoping to see a pilot project established, whether it's in Langford or out at the peninsula?
Yeah, we would think that would be great.
Yeah. Because
we pursue projects independent of them being government demonstration projects as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So our council did actually give a letter of support, I think.
Yes, you did. Thank you very much.
Some time ago, correct?
Yes, you did.
Yes. So I just want to get down to the basics here.
Yeah.
I appreciate the idea of our staff doing something, but I don't personally want to see our staff get let this take away from our transition program that we're entering into on taking over our sewer operation
Right.
by the end of this year. And we don't know what the select committee is going to be bringing forward to the board, i.e. as a pilot project or some other type of concept. We were actually given a presentation last year by another proponent on how we can deal with food scraps and our biosolids combined.
Right.
That didn't involve this process. So, I appreciate the offer, but at the same time, I personally, I don't think our staff should get tied up right now at this stage, but I wouldn't vote against the motion. I just want to remind members that it takes away from our plans that we've already embarked upon, and we've got 5 months left in our transition to take over our sewer operation.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate the offer, and if it doesn't tie up a lot of staff's time, I would support getting some numbers or an idea of what the unit cost is for our size community. And if you want a motion of that effect, I would so move. That if you could put something forward based on the size of our operation and an approximate estimation as what food waste we have being collected in our community. And I think that's readily available from the private contractors.
There's a motion that Mr. Joseph has put together there. Does that sort of cover your thoughts, Councillor Casper?
Well, yes, but I just think we got to be mindful of the workload of our
No,
staff.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's all.
Before we discuss it, is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Ray. No, I hear what you're saying, Councillor Casper. I do think, though, that there probably wouldn't be a lot of staff time involved because it would be the truckers maybe getting, if anything, from Mr. Blackall or through Ms. Sullivan, the amount of what we pay for the tonnage for the cost. I know it's in our budget, so I mean it's right there. Any one of us could probably pull it up quite quickly, and then just some information on the plant and the like. Maybe we could probably have something together to explore. Because we do pay a significant amount of money each year to get the solids out of our community. So I don't see it as being a big thing. It would just
Sure, and this would be
move us in the right
combined, if I
direction.
may. This is food scraps and our
Sludge.
screenings and sludge from our sewage plant, correct? Okay.
It can be anything. You can scope it how you wish.
because some of the haulers may even be interested in a more local option, is less wear on their trucks to drive something all the way to Heartland as well.
Yeah.
Councillor Ray?
And there's certainly an opportunity to coordinate with the West Shore, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
these are.
Thank you for your presentation, and this is all these options that are out there. It's good to see them come in, but I'm also mindful that we did have a previous presentation around the kitchen wastes. So if staff are putting together something, I would like to see a more comprehensive sort of what the options are. So I think it would also help in terms of not doing too much work to one particular thing, but put it into the scope of what all the options might be for us so that we can have more of an informed idea of what the
Yeah.
different types of options are.
Excellent.
I can tell you right now that your kitchen scraps program is costing your homeowners about $2,020 a ton to dispose of them.
Councillor Logans?
So could we make a friendly amendment to the motion and make it not just Pivotal, but also the other organizations that have come to council?
We do. We have something that deals with, it seems like that would be a bit more than just a friendly amendment. I only just say that because this is about gasification of everything, and the other one just dealt with kitchen scraps. And so if you're working with both, they're kind of apples and oranges. Like, it's different. I think it's more an amendment that may work is to, after Sue, just, and considering the other program about organics or something, and provide a report to council so that that piece is included. I don't know. Yeah, because then we're sort of covering off the other form of technology and the other piece of that we've considered in the past. Yeah, that was about organics specifically. It dealt specifically with organics. It didn't cover off, I don't think it covered off all like construction waste and wood waste and all those pieces, right? And it was a different technology. It provided a sort of soil that you would use for landscaping amendments, right? So does that cover off what everyone is thinking? That staff work with Pivotal IRM Inc. to explore options for advanced gasification of waste in Souk, including other options for addressing organic waste, and provide a report to council. Councillor Ray?
Yes, and I think it really is. It's just to allow us to see, to be more informed in terms of
Yep.
looking at the gasification. Because if you need 11 tons minimum, and we have somebody else who's looking at providing another alternative for kitchen scraps in our community, I think, it's best to have everybody informed, including anybody else who might be considering coming to Souk. So.
Yeah, and we also
So
have to
that works.
consider the 11,000 tons if we would reach that, or what we would need to do to get it, because then another debate would be whether we want other materials being trucked into Souk to meet the demand. So it's where it's just a basic. Councillor Pearson, did you have a comment or question?
Well, I think we also have a motion somewhere that I recall about collecting vegetable oils and things too.
We did do that. It was about,
It's all like, I think we've got a lot of motions that are sitting out there, all sort of in the same vein of things that we'd like to do or like to explore. So sometimes I get a little worried about how many things we get out there. I mean, I have no problem. This is a great idea. I don't know where we get 11,000 tons. I think that's a lot.
well, we'll find out in
Okay.
time, in due
When
course.
we're not talking, 11,000 tons is confusing. It's 11 tons a day.
11 tons
So
a
a
day.
gasifier
right.
like that
I was
runs
thinking like-
about 3,600 tons a year.
3,600 tons,
11, because it's 11 tons a day.
11 tons a day.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of 22,000 pounds.
Okay.
Old.
We'll get the staff report and we'll know what our options are. We're not committing to anything at this point. Mr. Joseph?
Just if council wants to move this motion, you should move the amendment.
Okay.
And second it, which you did.
Thank you very much. So moving the amendment as stated, Councillor Casper is moving the amendment and seconded by Councillor Logans. I think that's covered off our discussion on the amendment, so I'll call the question on the amendment. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Now on the main motion as stated, as amended. Any further comments or questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Bethel. We look forward to seeing you again. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We're going to move into our public question and comment period. At this time, I'd like to invite any members of the public to come forward, with the exception of items for the public hearing, of which there's 2 public hearings and 1 public input section, and there are specific times allotted for those items. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to ask Council if they've decided where and when the required public consultation regarding the proposed financial plan will be held. This is a statutory requirement under the Community Charter that a council must undertake a process of public consultation regarding the proposed financial plan before it's adopted. That's a statutory requirement. And so I'd like to know when we're going to have that process. We've always had one before, open house or however. We've walked around the room and looked at all the boards and talked to everybody. That hasn't happened, and I'd like to know when it will.
Ms. Sullivan?
I may defer this question to the corporate officer, our director of corporate services, and acting corporate officer, but I do believe we had a committee of the whole on the 5-year financial
That
plan.
doesn't cut it.
Yes, Madam Mayor, the members of the public were given an opportunity to speak to the budget at every stage of the process along the way. It's not a statutory requirement that we have to have a separate process. That was considered our process this year, and members of the public can still speak to it before it's adopted.
Okay,
That doesn't meet the requirement put forward by the province. A committee of the whole meeting isn't a process put forward by council. Every year we've had the opportunity to have a process that was designed so that we could actually bring forward questions of our own that we have that are important to us, reference the budget, and that has not happened. I mean, we can sit, most of the meetings that you've had, it's been public question and comment period at the beginning, then the budget, then council discussion, and then adjournment. It has not met the requirement. And so I'm putting that forward that this is a statutory requirement, and I do intend to take it beyond this room if it's not met tonight. And it's a criminal code violation to not follow provincial statutes. That's all I'm going to say on that subject, because my time's probably already gone.
just 30 seconds.
Okay, in 30 seconds, I'll also say that the $400,000 that's in the budget to go on to the playing fields, in the agreement between the District of Sauk and Sun River, it's very clear that that $400,000 is tied to the district lands down in Sun River, and that those $400,000 should not be used beyond those. If you're going to honor your land development agreement with Sun River, that money stays on the property in Sun River. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Any other members of the public?
Hi, Jeff Bateman, 7083 Briarwood Place, and that's Bateman. Okay, is that still a requirement, spelling of the name? I just want to remind Council that we have, the district has a Climate Change Action Committee, of which I'm chair, and it involves a number of very qualified people on the subjects that our second delegation representative was speaking to, gasification. You were thinking of net zero waste from Abbotsford, BC. He's come to council twice, and he's looking to create a regional compost facility. So these are, as our guest here was stating, a gasification facility involves biomass, all sorts of different materials. And it's possible that the two operations can go side by side, because the compost facility will give the district a lot of really valuable soil, as you were saying, Mayor. Yes, this Climate Change Action Committee, just for the record, Brent Blackhall is part of it, Andrew Moore of the Sauk Nation, Laura Hooper, Chief Sorensen, Mark Ziegler, and myself. And we'd like to be utilized by the district as it moves forward. So if staff is stressed with time, you have some volunteers and a committee that is prepared to do some of this investigation and work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bateman. Are there any other members of the public? Call for a second time. Okay, thank you. At this point, we're going to move into our public hearing section, PH1. Bylaw number 633, zoning amendment bylaw 600-23, 7105 Grant Road. And we will be starting with a planning department report and presentation.
Am I on? Thank you. Okay. Thank you for having me today. Today I'm going to talk about 7105 Grant Road, the zoning amendment. And Gabriel, are you okay to switch? Thank you. We can flip. Oh, I have it. Sorry. For this application, the applicant is hoping to make an amendment to the Souk zoning bylaw by rezoning the property from rural residential RU4 to rural residential R3. And this property, again, is 7105 Grant Road. You can see the greater district location map here. And just going to continue on. So you can see the adjacent zonings and land uses surrounding the parcel include a variety of different land uses. So we've got manufactured home parks, we've got rural residential, we've got community facilities nearby. The history of the area was farming, and over the last 10 years or so there hasn't been a whole lot of change in the area. But we do have an OCP direction to increase some of the densification in that area to support our infrastructure. So times are changing out there. We have the zoning details here and the site analysis of the existing property. It's quite open. Looking at the adjacent zonings and land uses, these are other, the circles there represent other R3 properties within the vicinity, so that just to show that there is a bit of smaller lot densification happening nearby. The star, of course, is the site. The neighborhood itself has a wide variety of different residential structures. We've got back 60s, 70s, 80s infill housing pattern. We've got rental units and suites. The location is about 1.5 kilometers from town. It's got all of the bus services and post office boxes, and a number of other applications in the neighborhood are going through this same kind of rezoning. The OCP designates this area as community. It's within the community growth area. Sorry, I can't see. I think I need a stronger prescription. And I'm going to carry on here. So our community residential designation provides support for low to medium density residential growth, along with some associated appropriately scaled commercial development. Our residential development is targeted towards the community growth areas, which it is, where municipal services can be provided or accessed in an efficient manner. All new development shall be challenged by the creation of a green build checklist. And so these are just some images down below of what that type of design could be, sort of small scale residential infill that supports still a single family or duplex kind of development. And the OCP provides some goals, which are, again, to promote a high level of design and design creativity for buildings within the community growth area, have integrate innovations for building and site design that promote green and sustainable development, excellent pedestrian connectivity throughout the district and within these new developments, as well as protect development from slope instability. Here's a summary of just the site. And I guess the key thing here, it's a 0.33 acre site. And there has been an application made to bring it into the sewer specified area. And the applicant would be responsible for all costs associated with site improvements. And so our recommendation is that Council consider third reading of bylaw 633, zoning amendment bylaw 600-23 after the public hearing in order to rezone the property located at 7105 Grant Road from rural residential to small lot residential. And that's the end of that.
Are there any questions from council to staff? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Danica. I'm going to move into the public hearing. Before we do that, there's just a statement that I shall read. This public hearing is being held pursuant to the Local Government Act. At this public hearing, any person who believes that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw will be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the bylaw that are the subject of this hearing. Copies of written submission received to date are available, and you'll see that as an additional to page 1. It is important that all who speak at this hearing restrict their remarks to matters contained in the bylaw, and it is my responsibility as chair of this hearing to ensure that all remarks are so restricted. Those of you who wish to speak at the appropriate time, commence your address to council by clearly stating your name and address. Then you may give us the benefit of your views concerning the proposed bylaw. Submissions must be received before or during the public hearing in order to be considered by council. So on that note, I'd like to welcome any members of the public to please come forward. Ms. Danica, you may need to move. Sorry.
We're coming up.
Or someone needs to move. Thank you. Mr. Howard's moving. Okay, so if anyone, I'd like to welcome any members of the public to come forward, please. And if you could kindly state your name and address for the record and turn on the microphone.
Ellen Lures, 5526 Souk Road. I just have one comment, and it will apply to the other one as well, is that Souk has allowed suites in all residents, and it's allowed in here too. So you have smaller lots. Are we going to have cars parked on the road again? Because it seems to happen over and over, the parking issue where we have suites that allow another 2 cars, and you have 2 to 3 cars, so you may end up with 5 cars. Or are we going to end up with cars in the streets again? And I think that's something we really have to be cautious about. We've talked about that many times. So just want to alert council and staff to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lures. Are there any other speakers? I'll call for a second time. Any further speakers? Third time? Once, going twice. So close the public hearing and ask council for direction on. Is there someone prepared to move third reading? Okay, so that would be moving third reading of bylaw number 633, moved by Councillor Ray and seconded by Councillor Logans. Any discussion on the motion? Councillor Parkinson?
I too would like to ask about the parking for the area, because as we go around town, there is a huge problem with the parking down Dover and down on the water side, and it has become a huge problem with parking on both sides of the road.
Would you like me to speak?
Sure, if there's any comments you can provide.
I think it's a great concern, especially on these small lots. I have had some applications come in recently for building even, and when people come in with additional suites that are permitted, they are required to put the extra parking one stall on their lot. If we see parking on the road that's not on a lot, maybe it's not permitted. So that's something to consider. And then do we want to enforce that? Are they legal suites?
Thank you. Any further comments or questions from council? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, so that moves us into page 2, bylaw number 637, zoning amendment bylaw 600-25-7109 Grant Road. And again, welcome. We have a planning department report and presentation.
Thank you, Your Worship. 7109 Grant Road. Note the red as opposed to the blue. It's almost the same. But right next door. So we have the applicant in this instance wishes to rezone the property and amend the Souk zoning bylaw from rural residential to, it should say, I'm sorry, small lot residential, R3. Again, right next door to the previous lot. At site B, or A as opposed to B. We have the similar surrounding zonings and land uses. We also had typically farming in the area, and the Bromans have been longstanding residents of the community. Our adjacent zonings and land use continue to be the same, small lot residential. To touch on, yes, we have single family dwelling or one duplex per lot permitted. The site analysis shows it's pretty open. Same neighborhood. And again, the official community plan is community residential designations providing support for low to medium density residential growth. And I just put in the slide here, I'm going to focus on this time, just a few things we can do to enhance our new homes. So some green building ideas for new developers. And the same thing, the parcel size is 0.33 of an acre, and an application has been made to bring it into the sewer system. And again, the applicant will be responsible for all costs associated with site improvements. And our recommendation is that Council consider the third reading of bylaw number 637, zoning amendment 600-25, after the public hearing to rezone the property located at 7109 Grant Road from rural residential zone RU4 to small lot residential R3.
Thank you, Ms. Rice. Comments or questions from members of council? Likely the same concern about parking. It's not just in this area, but it would be in other areas. I think it's something to look at down the road. Okay, so on that note, I'm going to go into the public hearing and read the following statement. This public hearing is being held pursuant to the Local Government Act. At this public hearing, any person who believes that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw will be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the bylaw that are the subject of this hearing. Copies of written submissions received to date are available. It is important that all who speak at this hearing restrict their remarks to matters contained in the bylaw, and it is my responsibility as chair of this hearing to ensure that all remarks are so restricted. For those of you who wish to speak at the appropriate time, commence your address to council by clearly stating your name and address. Then you may give us the benefit of your views concerning the proposed bylaw. Submissions must be received before or during the public hearing in order to be considered by council. So on that note, I'd like to welcome any speakers forward in regards to bylaw number 637. Welcome.
Thank you. Ellen Lures, 5526 Souk Road. I'd like to speak about the suite. When you look at what you've got one secondary suite or one small suite on a lot with single family. And Danica did say one space allotted. If the one secondary suite is actually a two-bedroom suite, there's a possibility of two, possibly three cars. And there are conditions of use that you have that could be put in, conditions of use. So if you have a one secondary suite with two bedrooms, then there should be two extra spaces allotted. Something has to be done about that. I know we all know the concern, but that bylaw was passed to put secondary suites in, or allow it in every zone. So that has to be revisited, and how we're going to deal with that, because it's a serious issue, and you're just following what the district allows, but it has to be looked at. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lurs. Are there any other members of the public? The applicant like to speak? If you want to come forward, please. And we'll just need your name and address for the record, please.
John Broman, 7797 Manitou Road. I'm representing the boys here with their development here on Grant Road. Parking's always been a concern. That's kind of why we went with a medium and low density in this development. We could talk to your staff to do a bigger development with townhouse. It's kind of beside us up the way, but with the townhouse development, you could end up with over 12 to 14 units. With this small lot, I feel it's a great zoning for infilling within Souk and still keep your single-family dwelling atmosphere instead of high-rise townhouses, condos. I think it's a good mix. We've designed a layout there with a lot of road in there to allow for off-street parking. We do have on-street parking on the side. Years ago, when my dad subdivided the property into 3 chunks, it was one big piece. He gave up a huge chunk of land off the front that can be used for sidewalks, parking, whatever. It was a big chunk of land that he gave up. You can see it on the map that when he originally changed it from 1 lot to 3, and now we're again going. But I've got developments on Tominey. You'll see the one right at the front on the highway. I have 3 places in there. I do not park on the street. We got more than sufficient parking for all 3 houses, and that are in there on a smaller lot than what this one lot here is doing. So, you know, I try to supply big parking, wide driveways, so everybody can get in. I've done that all the way along Tominey, and it is a concern. My concern with Sooke is cost of development. We got to compete with Langford. We're saying 350 is small. That is huge in Langford. Langford's now got 150 square meters, and we got to compete with that with housing. So 150 square meter lots is what they allow in Langford for their small lot. We're at 350. I think we can go down and densify more yet. If they can do it, we can do it. And we have to compete with Langford on house costs and that. But we feel it's a good mix with the neighborhood. I know there's concerns with parking, and I can guarantee we will make parking. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Broman. There are other members of the public that wish to speak? Call for a second time. Any members of the public? Third and final time? Close the public hearing. Thank you very much for your comments, and ask council to consider third reading. I think Councillor Logan's had it. Was your hand up to move third reading? Okay, so moved by Councillor Logan's and seconded by Councillor Casper. Any discussion on the motion? Councillor Logan's?
It's nice to hear that the same people who did Tominey are doing this area as well. I bought and sold a home on that road, and the parking there was very excellent and well thought out. So hopefully that same thought process goes to development like this and others in the future.
Anything else? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay. We're going to move into our public input and information section. PI 1, a development permit and development variance permit application for 6689 Goodmere Road, Lot 1, Section 10, Sooke District Plan 26588. And we will begin with a report from planning. Thank you and welcome back.
Thank you. So this evening, this is a new applicant, obviously. We have Ms. Gwen Fisher is here tonight, and will be presenting her application for a development permit and a development variance permit. This site is probably more commonly known to people as Pure Element Spa and Hair Salon. And in this location, the applicant plans to build a new garden center and in the form of a greenhouse to add commercial retail space to the existing lot. She's seeking authorization for a development permit and a development variance permit. The proposed new greenhouse will require 1 additional parking space, public access, some stormwater management, landscaping, and general site improvements. As a result, 2 variances have been requested. The issuance of the development permit is conditional upon council's approval of the variance permit. So the existing property, these are just some images as to what's happening there right now. We've got parking in the front. Presently, there's an access down the right side of the existing structure, and the bottom left image shows that access going into the backyard. On the left side of the backyard is an open space right now, which is where the proposed greenhouse would go. And you can see that she has a variety of plantings existing there right now, and existing landscaping that's lovely and quite well established. The official community plan, you see the arrow points where the subject property is. It's right in the middle of the town center. And our designation for the TC town center designation, it shows that there's a critical need to create a viable, healthy commercial town center. Revitalization is key to encouraging business to locate within the town center and to creating a healthy community core. DPA number 1 guidelines are provided to ensure that building design is sympathetic in form and character to Souk's unique geographic location and spectacular natural setting. These are just some images of other quaint little garden centers that may or may not work here. The neighboring properties are more or less residential. We'll get into that later, but I thought there was a comment that came in just recently from BC Transit that I think is reflective of some of the feelings that I've been going through here. So the existing Goodmere Road right-of-way has yet to be improved with sidewalks and designated lanes, which may change the allocation of municipal-owned boulevard space in front of the properties along Goodmere Road. BC Transit urges the district and the applicant to ensure that the subject property has a street interface with Goodmere Road that is sympathetic and resilient to future development of the town center's transportation network and also redevelopment of adjoining properties. Provision for off-street parking should be attractive to customers and strive to apply parking concepts in the Souk Town Center Illustrative Design Handbook, which is our document for those that don't know. So the proposed site plan, may I please use a pointer? Did the laser pointer? Or is it on here? What's the middle one? That one, sorry. Okay. So this is our proposed site plan, and I'll just start from the top right over here. We've got parking considered. So the applicant at the moment actually has an existing development permit that has allowed for on-street parking in the past. So in this instance, we are going to just look at presently she's only required to add one additional spot, but she's going to reorganize the entire front of the building to provide actually two spots. So that, I think, should help. We've got the proposed greenhouse down the back here, and the variances are these yellow lines, and so we're seeking to relax the setback from 4.5 meters to 1.5 on the side and 4.5 to 3.6 on the rear lot lines for the greenhouse, or for improved siting. But looking at, I know the applicant did a bit of an analysis, and having the greenhouse more in the center where the full setbacks were met, it seemed to have more of an impact on the views of adjacent property owners, as well as the main structure here as well. So that's just some of the consideration that went into siting the greenhouse that far over. The second variance is these yellow lines here, relaxing the setbacks for the new uncovered. It's basically a deck platform that's more, I think it's just over 2 feet high, so not very high, but from 4.5 to 0.25 meters, so very close to the property line on either side, for the purposes of stormwater storage and improving pedestrian circulation of the site. So the idea is that you would park and be able to come down the side of the building here. This is ramped up to this sort of platform area, but under the platform is a stormwater retention facility, and then you can continue on to the greenhouse. This becoming a central sort of gathering area and garden area for the whole site. But under this central area as well is the existing irrigation and rainwater retention facility. So that's another reason to not potentially disturb that. So the stormwater is to be managed on site in the existing retention facility, and an additional storage facility, which would be here for the greenhouse use, is provided with the construction and the new structure platform. And landscaping, overall site improvements would be conducted to create a garden setting in the rear of the primary structure with a variety of different landscaping arrangements. So these renderings are just give you an idea as to how it would all look. The variance requests, again, the CTC zoning, plant nursery is a permitted use, and then I have highlighted the required setbacks, the requested setbacks, and the variances. And here's the site, looking at the different zoning. So we've got this particular parcel is zoned CTC, so it's very flexible what is permitted here. There's basically everything permitted. And surrounding it, however, is R1 for the most part. And so I think the applicant has made an effort to be sensitive to the neighbors in this case and trying to keep things as low impact as possible. And here's a summary of the application. So the DP-DVP to meet siting requirements for a commercial greenhouse and existing zoning, town center mixed use, existing OCPs, town center, sewer, it is on the district of sewer system and Capital Regional District water. Existing parking, there is presently 4 stalls on site and 2 stalls on the road. And the proposed parking is that there will be 6 stalls on site and 2 continuing to be on the road. And so the landscape plan, just some quotes from Ms. Fisher saying they'd like to keep our trees in the backyard lower to protect the view of our neighbors and clients in the upper level of pure elements. All our plants are strategically placed to allow for what views we have left. We want to make a little oasis of creativity and design and to encourage edible plants. So over the years, these shrubs will be ever-changing to showcase the possibility of edible plants. And there's a list of species. The rainwater management plan provided by, anyway, okay. You can see the underground irrigation lines, or I should say holding tank lines, so this is what it looks like. And then where the greenhouse will go, you can see there are existing hedges, so there is an element of privacy already there. And so staff recommendation is that council authorize the issuance of a development permit for 6689 Goodmere Road and a development variance permit as proposed in the report.
Thank you, Ms. Rice. Any comments or questions from members of council? Do you have a question? Okay. Okay, so we're going to move into the public input. Councillor Berger?
Yeah, sorry, I just have a quick question. It could have waited till after, but I noticed that we did have a couple submissions from the public. My only concern, I think it's a great idea and a great way to use space, just the address of the location. I'm just wondering if any of these submissions are from the adjacent neighbors that are affected by the variance.
Let's have a look here. If I read them to you, would you be able to tell me if any of them are your neighbors?
Actually, Ms. Rice, you did direct the comment to me.
Okay,
I'm just looking, I can probably answer that. One of them, it says in the letter that they live across. There's one, I think that's on Horn Road, because that would be for Harborside Co-housing is on Horn Road. And the other one is in support. It doesn't say where, though, and the addresses are removed for a reason. So, and then there's the last, actually, 2 more in support. So I think there's one neighbor directly says across the street. So, is that helpful, Councillor Berger?
Oh, no, I just was like, my main concern was that if these, just how the neighbors felt about it, because they're, I mean, a 4-meter setback is it's a huge setback when the variance is 4.25. So my concern was just if these neighbors that are adjacent, have they had the opportunity to either discuss it with the applicant or have they approached our staff? So I can wait till after the public hearing, that's fine.
Yeah, we can open that up now, and then this is an opportunity for those neighbors to say it, as well as the applicant to give any feedback as well. So I'll just start off with a statement, and that is that this public input meeting is being held to allow the public an opportunity to make submissions to council on a particular item on the agenda. Staff will review the report, and then any person who has any interest in the item will have an opportunity to make a submission to council. Before speaking, please state your name and address for the record. So we do have the ones in the blue package, and at this time I'd like to welcome any members of the public to bring their concerns forward to council. If you could please come forward and have a seat by just the empty chair there, and we'll just need your name and address, please.
Eric Phillips, 6696 Goodmere. That place has got so much parking with their own staff. There's at least 8 to 10 staff cars there, parked all over the place. Then the customers come in, and to get down to the back there, they couldn't get a truck down the back there. Just a little wee pickup's all a bit taken down there. There's not enough room to get down the back there. So I'm dead against it, because when they first put that place up, they were going to put parking down behind the place, but they didn't. They put it all up on the road. And if they want to widen Grant Road, it's going to be impossible. Because I think they're figuring on doing work on Grant Road, the highways, aren't they? Goodmere, I should say, yes. But Goodmere's just plugged up with cars around that place during the day. To get anything else in there would be impossible. I'm dead against it. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Phillips.
Okay.
There are other speakers? If you could please come forward.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ruma Roy, and my residence address is 6682 Horn Road. I just came to know that Harborside has supported this to go through. I would like you to come and see the property, what they have done to my property, Harborside. I have 2 driveways. When I was gone for 2 months, they used my driveway, broke it.
Sorry, this public input is specific to this project.
But I'm coming
though.
to that. It's
Okay.
all related, because we are talking here neighborhood, community. I'm just all alone there. They have damaged. I put $600, put the soil, put the grass. I was told after everything is done, it will be taken care of. It's not taken care of. And they're caving in on my septic, on the road, the main tank. They're putting tires over it, parking over it.
Okay, you're referring to Harborside, so perhaps if you contact staff, I need to know if you could just direct your comments about this particular one on Goodmere.
Okay, for this one I can say I have a patch where I used to grow 60 to 80 dahlias. Now if you come, you have to put on boots to go. It's all waterlogging. And it happened just 2 years it started happening. It never happened. And I know there is a fund for drainage given to that area. Nothing is taken care of. Same, my neighbor is also facing. So I came 4 or 5 times to the office. I went one property just above me. There the gutter water is coming and there is no drainage. It's coming on the ground and I'm low lying. All the water is coming in my property. So with this one, this property, the one which is in question, they have dug up all the topsoil. And the water, I know the grass it retains, but it's all topsoil gone and water is in my dahlia patch. Not a single plant, all are rotten. So I think the water came because there is no drainage. I'm nothing against development is good. But why should I suffer? I wanted to talk to you. I want to take appointment. I was told, we see what we can do. For 6 months it's going on. I came 2 days ago also. I came last week twice. My driveway, we have a small business. They cracked it, and it's going to cost me $700 to make the color. They just patch it up with the gray cement, black and cement. How can my tourist guests can come? So I'm very emotional, but please look into this.
Okay.
Water is coming from behind. Front is I have parking problem. They're parking on my water, like shut-off bulb, everything they're parking on. If it's broken, who's going to repair it?
Okay, so I'm getting a nod from our CEO, and she'll be in touch with you to deal with the Harborside piece. And we hear you about the drainage and your concern
Thank you so
regarding the
much.
topsoil on this. And,
Thank you.
And I hear that you support the development. It's just the concern of any
No,
sort
I
of
support
drainage
the
impact.
business development. I support it.
Okay.
But the way it's taken care at the end, finishing is awful for me.
Okay.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Are there other speakers in regards to the development variance? Oh, yes, please come forward.
Richard Phillips, 6787 Grant
Okay,
Road.
I just, oh yes, sorry,
6787 Grant Road.
Okay.
But I owned the house in 1972 and 74, right next to the church.
Okay.
And does people only go to church on Sunday mornings? You know, the church have lots of things going on. And there's no room to park on either side of the road. And when is Sue going to wake up and abide by the law rather than go ahead and put these things through? We had permits for the service station, and we've been fighting this for years. And Elizabeth May, Ms. Sullivan knows about it. It cost us $600 to straighten out something that should have never happened. So your laws aren't worth. Why are they building parks and everything? Start finding parking spots in the Souk area, because why should the shopping centers and that, the Legion and the community hall, have big gatherings, and yet you want to have more ballparks and that? Look after what we got now without going more. Because they park in front of 72 and 74, that's road allowance, yeah. But I go down to my brother's place, and somebody coming up Murray Road and somebody going down, they've got to stop on the corner to let somebody by there. So start widening the roads so anyway, I'm sorry, but
That's okay.
if
Thank you, Mr.
the
Phillips.
city would, in fact, Mr. Casper was up there, and he knows some of the trouble our great city's up to.
Thank you.
I'm going to speak. The parking. Oh, sorry. Gwen Fisher. My home address is 7223 Wright Road. I'm the applicant, of course, for Pure Elements. And I empathize with our neighbors about the parking. We have a shared agreement with the church that was with our first application. Some of you were here for that. And I will get my staff I'll be a bit more strict with them using it during the week in the back part of the church to free up that parking. We've gathered 2 more spots off our lot. It was never in the agreement to park in the front. It doesn't make sense to park where people can enjoy a view. I know a few of you have been into our studio, and it's bad use of good green space. And I think an issue we have to talk about in Souk, and it's not about this development, but down Murray Road it is a problem. We deal with it as well. If we had culverts on the east side of Murray Road, that would allow a lot of parking along there that would be parallel, but I know we're all on budgets. This development has brought up a lot of emotions for the neighbors, and I understand that, but I've said to Danica when my temper roared up one day while we were in my garden, I've been dealing with the drainage for Goodmere Road for 10 years with our catchment. Goodmere Road is as poorly built as Horn Road, but because I'm a commercial development, I had to put in a very expensive drainage pit 11 years ago, or 10 years now. And that is working very well. So I know that we're not contributing to the drainage issue. We're a little ahead of the game taking off the grass, but we want to catch all the water to reuse in our greenhouse and in our plants. We want to educate Souk on growing their own food. We want to create a community within our garden center. Parking is always going to be an issue until we partner up as a district and as businesses. I'm adding 2 more spots, and when the boulevard and when Goodmere Road manages to go through, which we don't know when it is, and I try not to bother you people, I think those boulevards I've been cutting and maintaining, and it has allowed for quite a bit more parking, and I do sympathize with my neighbors. The neighbors on either side of us, Bev, are all for it. They've enjoyed some dirt that I've shared, and Mr. Marshall, whose property is directly to the west of me, is in support. I actually could have been less passive and maybe got a letter from him, but he's aware of what's going on, and they seem fine with it, the direct neighbors on either side. I wanted the greenhouse closer, as Ms. Rice said, because as it's closer to the hedge, it allows more space for the garden center, but it tucked down that little bit lower would allow the 2 houses on either side to keep their view lines. If I put it 15.9 feet, 4.5 meters in, it's just going to, the view lines for both neighbors on either side is going to be gone. And we've already lost some view lines in the last 2 years over there. So I just would like you to consider this application. It's more jobs for people in Souk, and I think we've been a reputable business. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Any other comments from the public?
Mayor and Council, my name is Judith Bryden, and along with my husband Glenn Bryden, we reside at 6692 Horn Road. And the back properties of Horn Road and Goodmere Road abut one another. Some of the answers have been answered, maybe that I have in my presentation, but I still would like to proceed with it by the owner that was just here. And I have 3 sections that I have concern. One is the variance, the other is the water runoff and drainage, and the other is privacy. In regard to the variance, the approval to build the deck or platform structure in the southwest corner of the said property will infringe on our privacy even more than at present. A privacy fence, which was approximately 6 feet high, made of wood, gave both properties privacy, along with the shrubbery that they had along the fence line. Both of these have now been removed. Sorry, I'm nervous. At present, the fence is page wire, approximately 4 feet high. And my question was, the dimensions of this deck, what will the height be? Would the flooring of the deck be at the height of the present post holding the page wire fence? And how high would the safety railings be? And going on to the water runoff and drain off, is Council aware of the water runoff and drainage problems already associated with these properties? The engineering department is aware of the problems along Murray and Horn Roads associated with springs on said properties. And the level of the ground on the property at 6692 Horn Road is below the corner of the proposed observation deck and is extremely wet and remains wet into the summer months. And at present, you need gumboots to walk through this area because of the water. The removal of the turf caused, in our opinion, more water drainage from the southeast corner of Goodmere property onto 6692 Horn Road lot. This is causing excessive water drainage down the fence line between us and 6682 Horn Road during this spring. We have had issues in the past with some water drainage from above along the fence line. The water generally traveled along the fence line in the past was less. However, this year the water was excessive, causing it to creep towards the house. We are required to trench along the fence line of the adjoining Horn Road properties to try and control the movement of water. My questions: how do the owners of Goodmere property propose to control the water runoff? Will they be installing a water system in order to keep the outside plants and plants in the greenhouse healthy? Will they hand water? Without the grass that was there previously, the water will continue to run onto the property below, causing difficulties. Can the owners of the subject property clarify stormwater, existing retention facility, and additional storage? What size is it? What will it be, the construction be, and where will the water go? Is it closed off or just natural seepage? And with regard to privacy, the property on Goodmere is approximately 4 or 5 feet higher than the land on 6692 Horn Road. With the changes in place now, which has removed most of our privacy, the observation deck will completely remove what little is left. We envision people standing on this proposed deck looking directly into our backyard and some windows. With the proposed request to build the deck right at the property line, as well as those customers strolling along the fence line, our privacy is in question, and I do wonder about security, or safety rather. And the question is, how are the owners of Goodmere property intending on correcting this, such as having privacy fence taller than is what they're now, and the fence should run along their property line from the observation deck to behind the greenhouse. Finally, although we might not be directly affected, as the neighbors on Goodmere and Murray will be, we are of the opinion that 2 additional parking stalls is insufficient. There is always issues with the parking on both sides of Murray at present. This will only add to it. And to inform the owners of the property on Goodmere that the cement retaining wall has a crack in it that midway along, which runs from the ground level to the top, and we feel it should be looked at by the owners. And concerns for the future, if this is permitted, I can foresee owners' next phase, their clientele enjoying a glass of bubbly and appies. And one is given the impression that the town wishes to move the commercial core off the highway, moving it further into residential areas. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there other speakers?
Cindy Hegland, 6697 Horn Road. Although it's a lovely, I'm a gardener, I think it's cool to have the thought of a garden center. I really question parking down there is really a challenge. We are dealing, the church is there. They have many, many, many uses of the church. There's always traffic on Murray Road. Many a time we question whether an ambulance or fire truck could ever get through. And I would reiterate what Mr. Phillips said, that we really need to look at that carefully, because it's really a problem down there, and it's becoming more of a problem because, of course, we have the park. So people are parking in the park. Last Saturday, beautiful day, parking lot filled, cars down Horn Road, cars up Murray Road. I can't blame them for wanting to enjoy the boardwalk, but there is the issue of the parking, and it really needs to be looked at a lot more. I guess the word I'm looking for is thoroughly, because I feel it's unfortunate for the applicant, because they're in a position where they're wanting to do something, but there's just not the parking for the place. And Murray Road is busy. I haven't stood out there and done a number count, but it's busy, and it's the combination of the increased population down there, the use of the park, which is beautiful. Lots of people are coming to use it. Oodles of tourists that I'm sure are bringing money to the community. But I would appreciate it if parking could be looked at more closely for the interest of safety, for one thing. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Please come forward to the microphone.
Is it okay if I share an address with someone who's already spoken?
Yes, but I think in terms of the questions raised, if you're to talk about the drainage and the like, those are best answered by staff. Just
okay.
Because there was the reports that Ms. Rice had put forward regarding the water and the like on the slides. Okay.
The only, there is something,
okay.
one more thing.
Okay, well then just come forward and because the staff report sort of would cover that, and we can get the technical expertise. But please go ahead. We just need your full name and address.
It's Ed Fisher, 7223 Wright Road.
Okay.
And I just wanted to speak of the ramp that goes down the side of the house, and the reason why it comes around and has to be raised at the bottom of the yard is because in order to get a 1 in 20 drop on a ramp that would allow for wheelchair access and for bringing carts up and down with for plants or garden ornaments, we wanted to make sure that we had the proper drop on that ramp. And in order to do that, we had to come down right from the top of the yard all the way to the bottom and then come back up the yard. And that's why it comes down to the corner and then comes back up to the center of the yard. There's an extra 40 feet, an extra 20 feet of drop, or another foot of drop that needs to be taken in order to maintain that 1 in 20 drop. That's why there's a section at the bottom that's raised still above the yard. Okay. So I think everything else is covered on there that anyone's mentioned.
Okay. So, thank you very much. Okay. Any other members of the public? We have the spoken as well as the written comments. Is there anything else? Okay, so I'll close the public input session and go back to council. Council have questions. Councillor Parkinson, then Loggins.
I would just like to say that I think the project is really wonderful, and I think it would be a great addition to our town. But I am with residents as well in regards to parking, and I think that the district really needs to look at the parking problems, especially for downtown if we're going to do a lot of infill and things like that down there. There is very little parking down that road. I go down there quite often, and it is a serious problem. So we need to look at parking, but I think it's a wonderful project. Thank you.
Councillor Loggins?
I agree with Councillor Parkinson that parking is an issue down in that area, but I think that during the election, that was the number one thing that I heard actually from business owners was that parking throughout the town is an issue, so it's something more general that we have to look at. I know that the Fishers are very environmentally conscious, and I believe that it might be a good idea for them to look at an incentive perhaps for their employees to bike or bus to work if that's possible, instead of taking up other parking spots. I know that with the wedding industry, you're probably very busy on weekends when the church is also in use, so that might be a bit of a challenge. So perhaps looking at ways just to get the staff out of their cars as well, that might alleviate the situation. I don't believe that 6 parking spaces is enough because luckily you're a very successful business and have a lot of people coming there. So if there is another way to even get one more in there, or I don't know how we can help solve that very quickly, but hopefully there's a way to make it easier for everyone.
Other questions from council? Councillor Pearson, then Berger.
Well, I think that I think we're all cognizant of the fact that the parking around town is going to be the bane of our existence for a long time yet. The pressure is going to come on our downtown core, and as we do certainly want to in our strategic plan, have identified moving the town center as we would talk towards the water. The emotional pleas and the transition are going to be our challenge. So you've got a business in the midst of a neighborhood, a very well-established, very long-term neighborhood too, as well. Since probably long before I was a little boy here. So it's a challenge, and so we got to think it through. What I do like is that from the applicants, I mean, they're trying to be cognizant of the issues, the drainage issues, the parking issues, and we hear that around there. But we also have to be mindful of what else is going on around there. We have the Harborside co-housing, we have the church, we have the park down there that are all putting pressure on Murray Road, which is not necessarily Goodmuir Road. So again, it's that balancing act between, do the fishers pay the price because they live on only one road in and one road out? Our long-term plan is to get Goodmuir to go through. And we've made some mention of that, and I know that we've also freed up some money for engineering to consider some drainage issues, and that's an area that I think we've identified as requiring some drainage. So I think that the district itself is taking those steps, but it's the chicken and the egg kind of thing for me. It's like we need to fix the drainage, and at the same time we need to fix parking. So I don't have all those answers. But I do have a question for the applicants, unrelated. This greenhouse. Is it lighted at nighttime? Because that's I've. It's not the kind of greenhouse that I was. Never mind. For the store. Never mind. Okay, bad joke. No. Just sometimes the greenhouses get put in neighborhoods, and then all of a sudden there's this light pollution. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Berger.
Yes, thank you. So my concern, and again, I think it's an ingenious way to add something to your development, and I like it. My only concern and my hesitancy comes from the variance itself with the landowner just below you, where the major variance will be done, where the deck is going to be. To me, that I wrestle with that because we're looking at a variance of 4 meters. So right now our bylaw says 4.25. They want to go down to 2.25, which is 13 feet. I work better, and I'm not good with meters. So that's a 13-foot distance that we're going to vary. We're going to allow them to build a deck 13 feet closer to an existing neighbor and then put a 2-foot deck there. And I'm really sorry. Normally I make it out to every address and I sort of trespass and walk your yard, but I had an injury, so I couldn't do that. I wrestle with that. I wrestle with the fact that there's going to be a now what should be 13-foot distance between neighbors. Now it's going to be down, that'll be gone, and then there'll be a deck there. So, and again, please excuse me, I haven't been to the property, so I didn't see the elevation as to what that deck would look like. But I do, I wrestle with it with the neighbor on Onhard Road that abuts this property. Parking is a serious issue. We can't solve that tonight because we don't have a gazillion dollars to solve that. But the storage and the privacy don't sit well with me, and I don't know. I don't know. How do we direct staff to look at that? Do we have neighbors talk to each other? I don't know where to go from here, but I have a tough time with the privacy, and I think the stormwater might need to be looked at. I just was reviewing the report again, and in reading the letter from Wittett Construction on page 13, the very last paragraph says that it talks about how they installed the system, and it was a great system to help out with what was on the land. And then it goes into how they're going to be collecting rainwater for use of the plants, which is fantastic. And again, I love the project. But the last paragraph says no change will occur regarding the volume of groundwater entering to the site. Okay, blah blah blah. No mediations to the current system is deemed necessary or required in preparation of the proposal for the greenhouse. That makes me think twice because we've got neighbors that are talking about lots of storm water issues, and I have to direct that to staff because I don't know about stormwater issues. I'm not an expert on that. So I guess my question then through you to staff would be, any new stormwater? Is there any new stormwater plans going on site? I know you showed on the slide. And what would that look like, and how would that help the existing runoff that the neighbors are seeing?
So I did have this discussion with Ms. Fisher and through the engineer, and he basically said the rainwater leaders would tie into the stormwater treatment facility, and right now there are none because it's just there's no grass, there's nothing. She had prepped the site, not thinking we were actually going to have to go through this entire process, and so we had to put the brakes on to then come in, do process, make sure that the capability of handling the water for the site is there, which it is, and it's been signed off on. So for me, those concerns have been addressed.
Councillor Ray?
Thank you. This brings me, first of all, I really want to say that I certainly want to see businesses and commercial undertakings be prosperous and succeed. I, too, echo a lot of what's been said here this evening, and it brings me back to the variance request on Maryland Place. In terms of, somebody operating a business and somebody being a residential neighbor. And a number of things. I've driven down Murray Road. There's a number of things that have occurred down in that area. Even the new sidewalk on Horn Road, there's quite a real drop between where the sidewalk is and where the land is. And I just think that there's so many issues right now, and I think it's a little too complicated for me to understand all of the different pieces that go into this. And while I don't want to say no in the future, I think we need to do our due diligence about just what is going on down in that area. We're trying to promote tourism. Driving down Murray Road, parking is a massive issue. And I think when you start to layer more growth in the area, I think it's going to be challenging when we already have a problem. But that's not to say that down the road, if we can work through some of these other issues that are there, I don't feel comfortable saying yes tonight based on paperwork. I would like to go down and I'd like to look myself and go into the back property and understand what the neighbors are saying. Those pieces weren't part of the package this evening. And I would like to err on the side of caution initially. So that, 6 months from now, I'm not going, gee, I wish we had done more due diligence before we approve something. And I'm just not comfortable tonight to approve it without actually being down there.
Okay, so at this point, I'm looking to see what council would like to do. We have the full staff report and have heard from some members of the public. There is a recommendation that staff has put forward, and that is to authorize the issuance of both the development permit and the development variance permit. So I'm hearing that there's some hesitation, but others are seemingly in favor. So I'm looking to see what you would like to do. Councillor Berger.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Ms. Rice, for bringing up that there is going to be stormwater catchments that are going to be added, and I think that will help the neighboring property once that all does happen. I do agree with Councillor Ray in the just on the topic of the variance with what that privacy concern will be for the neighbor. So my inclination would be to direct our staff as well as the applicant and the neighbors to work together on that issue. Maybe there's something creative we can come up with as far as the neighbor mentioned, possibly privacy fencing, or just something so it can all work together.
Okay, so we need to have a motion put forward. Is your motion then to send this back to staff for further discussion with the applicant and the neighbors? Are you making that motion?
Sure.
Seconded. Mr. Joseph, did you capture the motion? Okay, we'll have it up on the board very shortly. Councillor Casper, speaking to the motion.
Yes, because I didn't speak earlier, I just did a lot of listening. I just, in regard to the motion and the purpose, so would the issues in regard to the setback and the platform be raised? I'm assuming that's the purpose, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't see in the report, and I didn't really hear what the purpose of the platform is. I really didn't gather that. I don't know why there is a platform in that location. Is it something special? Could it be moved? Could something be changed? Could the scale or the size of the greenhouse be changed or modified? Maybe those are some of the issues that could be addressed to help relieve the setback requirements and the possibility of finding another additional parking space. So I would hope that during those discussions, those are the kind of issues that could be addressed and looked at. I'm not opposed to allowing somebody to expand their business because they're already zoned to do this. It's not against that. I was on council when we rezoned the property. We did it in good faith, and I think the only surprise from the property owners was that their taxes went up the year after it got rezoned because it was zoned commercial, and that was a big surprise for everybody at that time. But it's been a successful building, and a business venture, and the improvements for employment have been good for the community. I know a lot of people who've worked there. I think my son got his hair cut there too a few times. So I just think that it's important that these types of issues get resolved because I don't want to see bad feelings in neighborhoods. I really don't. I don't think that's healthy for our community, and I think all of us want to have a more cooperative approach with the neighborhood. And if we can wrestle it out and find a little compromise, then I think it'll make our community healthier in the long run. So thank you for the time.
Councillor Pearson?
Well, I think if the motion is to direct this back to staff for further discussion, I want the neighbors and the applicants to know is that some of the requests here, I'm not opposed to. The major concern for me is the drainage and the water. I think greenhouse is a fairly benign use in the neighborhood as long as it's not lit up, and I think that it's a nice. It can fit into a neighborhood good. The one piece that I hope that the applicant can consider is that privacy piece from that deck. I didn't understand that deck with the neighbor. So, and forgive me because I didn't come down and walk on your property and have a look, but I will this week some night. I'll get down there. If you could have a discussion with your neighbors about that privacy piece, and you haven't changed the on-street parking for me, so I like that piece. You've actually there's nothing added to on-street, and there's two pieces added onto your property. So I think you've covered a lot of the issues that would come up. I think the pressure is going to continue to be on us to start looking at development in those areas, and at the same time, some people have built some beautiful homes in that area as well. So, there's a balancing act between what's existing, and to our staff, I think we really need to look at that drainage in that area because we know we had some stuff bubbling out with that co-housing. So, I hope part of that there's a lot of discussion that needs to take place. So if the applicant don't mind, I will come down and look at. I want to look at that deck. Forgive me for not being down there. So, Joe.
Thank you, Councillor Pearson. Anything further from council? I appreciate the comments that are raised. I do agree with Councillor Pearson in terms of us wanting to infill with commercial development and to build up a town center. These are the growing pains that we're going to go through. Parking in the town center and then the drainage are two things that will continue to flare up, and they can't just be put on one business owner to solve each and every time. It falls on us to look at the area as a whole and to come up with solutions so that we don't stop businesses from expanding and developing in the town center because that doesn't meet our strategic goal to do that. So I'm glad that we haven't just shut this down, that we are looking to find ways to move it forward because at the same time we do want to do it in a respectful manner to the neighborhood. So on that note, I will look forward to, we'll call the question on this and look forward to a future report, probably in the hopefully not too distant future from staff. So I'll call the question then. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. So, thank you, Ms. Rice.
I just had one further question, if
Yes.
that's okay. So, in my mind, the applicant has met her parking requirements and her drainage requirements, although it's not functioning right now because of the state of disturbance of the site. I agree that the privacy concern is something we need to work out with, and I just was hoping to have council support that if I returned with hopefully solving the privacy and drainage concern, is the rest going to be okay?
Councillor Pearson?
I would include I would include in your direction a discussion with Mr. Howitt about the overall drainage for that Horn Road, because I remember there was something that, and I would say bad word, bubbled up around the Horn Road driveway, and there was and I forgot the neighbor that lived across. She spoke, and there was some gooey situation there.
Okay.
If we could look at that, include that in that.
Yeah, through to Madam Mayor, to Councillor Pearson, we could look at the drainage features with regards to this proposed development and ensure that the post-development flows are contained. As Danica pointed out, there was a conclusion done by the engineer with regards to roof leaders and such that would go into the drainage system and be recirculated for the drainage, which certainly should circumvent any kind of surface water running off. But as you mentioned, that whole area does have springs. We found that on Horn Road. We're finding it on the other end of Goodmere Road where we're doing some work as well. And we're cognizant of the problem. How we're going to deal with it is still being looked at because the springs are sort of randomly placed. If they were all in a line, we could do with it quite easily. But we're working on it, trying to figure out what to do down in that whole area. So.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. And it's that plane that comes from Carborside Co-housing. I guess I'm trying to envision if we're going to somehow get that water down to the harbor. That's kind of what I'm hoping or thinking. I don't know. You're the engineering department. So.
I think that'll be part
Again,
of
we're looking at it.
It's a greater discussion. Councillor Ray?
Thank you. And just a quick comment. Thank you, Mr. Howitt, for explaining the spring piece, because that's what I did hear this evening was a fair amount of concern about the water. And if that's from other springs rather than this particular property, that was helpful to understand that. So it puts it a little bit better in perspective for me. Thank you.
As I said, just to reiterate, as part of the process with this development and any other development where drainage is a concern, the requirement is to ensure that there is no greater flow than was pre-construction after post-construction. This will actually eliminate it even further with regards to the reuse of the water.
Okay. So I think, pardon me, Ms. Rice, just comments like that would need to go into the staff report, so then it would just complete those pieces. And I think it will be up to council to decide if they're content with the additional parking requirement that has been met over and beyond what the applicant would need to. So that's sort of the piece we would need to debate when the staff report comes back. Okay, so I'd like to move on, please, to RA1, Atherley Closed Drainage Replacement Award of Request for Quote. There is a recommendation here, along with the staff report, that council... I'm sorry? Oh, pardon me, the 5-year financial plan, I missed that. Okay. So bylaw B1, bylaw number 639, 5-year financial plan bylaw 2016. There is a recommendation here, and that is that council give first, second, and third reading to bylaws number 639, 5-year financial plan bylaw 2016, as well as to the property tax rate bylaw. There was a comment raised by Ms. Hall in regards to the public process. If staff could speak to that.
Madam Mayor, staff were confident that the process that we undertook was fine. If you want to pass first three readings, we can confirm that with municipal affairs.
Okay. Sorry, do you mind repeating that? Just with the background chatter, I don't think it was picked up properly.
Staff were comfortable with our interpretation of the community charter, that our process was fine.
Okay.
But if council wants to give first three readings to the bylaws, we can confirm that with municipal affairs before you give adoption.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ray?
Yes, thank you. I've pulled up the site from the community charter on the Ministry of Community, Sport and Cultural Development, and it speaks specifically to public consultation. And it says the legislation does not specify the format of the public consultation process, and it may be varied at the local government's discretion to suit the local community. So I think that in my mind, that's the definition under Section 166 of the Community Charter and 816 of the Local Government Act as put out by the Ministry of Community, Sport and Cultural Development. But I'm not opposed to Mr. Joseph's recommendation that we do the first three and then they can check.
Councillor Parkinson, then Casper.
On page 17 for the bylaw for adoption, number 4, where it says all checks drawn on the bank must be signed, it says by either the mayor or one councillor. Should it be by one authorized councillor, or does that mean that any one of us can sign? So whoever has signing authority, that's all I'm inquiring about.
Oh, I see what. Yeah, I see what you mean there. Should we add in add in the word authorized? Would that clarify that?
Or just add as authorized? Because council's already authorized the mayor and 2 councillors to have signing authority.
That's correct.
Yeah, so we should probably just wordsmith that then. Countersigned by either the mayor or authorized councillors.
Or council member.
Madam Mayor, I would do that after you give first reading.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Casper, you were next.
Well, there's nothing stopping council from advertising further that the financial plan, 5-year financial plan, and the property tax rate bylaw would in fact be considered for final adoption at a meeting, and that could be 2 weeks from tonight. And that even gives further notice, public notice, that the bylaws are going to be discussed. People do have an opportunity. Yes, there has been these public drop-in sessions where proposed financial plan and other documents have been displayed in this meeting room here, but it's never been a formal meeting per se. It's a public process, and it's just one of many. On the weekend, I'm assuming there will be a display of the proposed 5-year financial plan, the tax rate bylaw, our strategic plan, and other matters at the Rotary event this weekend. So, that's one of many opportunities. So, I'm comfortable with the process, and it is purely up to our discretion. I don't recall us having a bylaw that specifically states that we have to do something specific as outlined by Ms. Hall.
Mr. Blackall, did you have a comment?
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, to the members' comments. I'm happy to stick around at the Rotary function for the whole time if needed. So there definitely will be the financial plan presented there, as it always is. So.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Pearson? Microphone, please.
Sorry. I was just reading the charter, and the actual says Community Charter Act is current of March 9th, 2016, Financial Management, Section 166. The actual, in the charter, it says a council must undertake a process of public consultation regarding the proposed financial plan before it's adopted. Doesn't tell you how, doesn't tell you what, doesn't tell you anything. That's a recommendation from the Ministry of Community Support, but the actual charter only says this. It's very one-lined. So, that's it.
Okay, so I'm looking for movement from council. Is anyone prepared to give?
I'll move first reading.
Move first reading by Councillor Casper, seconded by Councillor Berger. Okay. Any discussion on first reading? All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Logans is opposed. Second reading? Moves second reading by Councillor Berger, seconded by Councillor Casper. Discussion on second reading? Councillor Ray?
Is this where we would amend number 4 to say mayor or one other authorized councillor?
Or it could say what it says, excuse me, it could say as it says for designated staff member, it could say designated councillor. It says designated official.
Okay, so countersigned by either the mayor or designated councillor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you. That's good. Okay.
So, oh, yeah. Well, no, Councillor Parkinson used the word, so, yeah.
Okay, Mr. Blackhall? Can you turn on your microphone? They're not working.
Oh, why?
Oh, no, they are.
Oh, there we go. Yes, on page 19, I'd just like to propose another amendment. Under the 2016 column in the expenditures, the capital expenditures is just the operating capital, and we had planned a potential sewer centrifuge project. So right now, those are in the other municipal purposes. So it's $325,000 that would come out of that and go into the capital. It doesn't change the bottom line number, but I think I'd make that amendment.
Okay. Do we need to move something, or is that?
Yes, you'll have to move an amendment to that. If it's friendly, you can do them both together, but if anybody would like to vote on those separately, that's fine too.
Okay, so we have second reading on the floor, but then we would.
You actually have it in amendment before second reading because Councillor Parkinson moved the amendment for the designate councillor. Right?
Okay.
Perhaps we could do the first amendment.
Yep.
Okay.
The second.
That's fine.
All right. So on the amendment then for the wording, okay? All those in favor of the wording change? Opposed? Thank you. So now there's a second amendment to move the funds that Mr. Blackhall
That's
referred to? Okay, so is someone prepared to move that? Moved by Councillor Casper, seconded by Councillor Loggins. Any discussion on the second amendment or this amendment? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Amendments carried. Moved second reading. As amended, moved by Councillor Casper, seconded by Councillor Ray. Discussion on second reading. All those in favor of second reading? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay. Third reading moved by Councillor Casper, seconded by Councillor Ray. Discussion on third reading. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay. Now we need to give, would council consider first reading of bylaw number 640, property tax rate bylaw 2016? Moved by Councillor Ray, seconded by Councillor Pearson. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Second reading? Anyone? Moved by Councillor Casper, seconded by Councillor Loggins. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. And third reading? Moved by Councillor Casper, seconded by Councillor Pearson. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. I think we're done. Is that correct, Mr. Joseph? Yes. Thank you.
I'll make a motion that.
Can you turn on your microphone?
Sorry. I'll move that staff be instructed to advertise that council will be considering a fourth reading of the 5-year financial plan and the property tax rate bylaw. I guess, is it 2 weeks we're doing it?
Yeah. Okay.
And hopefully that can go in the next publications.
There's someone prepared to second that? Seconded by Councillor Ray. Any discussion on the advertising? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Moving along to RA1, the Atherley Closed Drainage Replacement Award of Request for Quote. There is a staff report, and recommendation is that Council approve Whittick Environmental Services as a successful proponent under the request for quotes for the Atherley Closed Drainage Replacement Project, and to authorize the Mayor and the CAO to sign the contract on behalf of the District of Sauk. Moved by Councillor Parkinson, seconded by Councillor Ray. Any discussion or questions on the staff report, the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Next up are reports for information. We will start with Mayor and Council reports. Would anyone like to go first?
No report.
No report from Councillor Parkinson. Councillor Ray.
Thank you. Just to update, I attended the CREST Finance Committee, and I sit on the Finance Committee, and what is being explored is to find opportunities for municipalities to use the same type of equipment, radios and pagers, and so that's a move that they're trying to make as we move to a new system with CREST. So what it would be is trying to making it feasible for municipalities to be able to afford the equipment. And I also attended the executive committee for the Vancouver Island Library Board, and we have a 5-year deal with the BCGEU, so that's good. And also, the facility plans were based on a 10-year plan, and we're looking at making it 15 years, and that way we can start to help reduce the cost to the municipalities, because now we're going to be doing it over a longer term. So we actually are seeing a decrease in the levy from the Vancouver Island Library Board this year from what had been proposed in a previous 5-year plan. So I think that's really good news. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ray. Councillor Berger.
Yes, just a quick one. Just a reminder that on this Saturday, April 30th, while you're at the Rotary Auction Fair, CPark is also hosting the referendum question for the potential purchase of Domino Creek Golf Course, which will be held at CPark as well.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Berger. Any other members of council? Nope. Councillor Casper.
We still have more bugs here. Okay, just give you a couple of heads up here, and this is in regard to Water Commission. CRD Water Commission is recommending to the CRD board that there will be additional watering restrictions now be placed on municipalities. Currently, that was never required, and I raised this issue as a result of just seeing municipalities watering boulevards right in the middle of a drought. So the bylaws is being forwarded to the CRD for amendments to bring forward some restrictions so that municipalities will also have to apply by similar circumstances as to what all the private citizens and certain classes of businesses apply to. Other items that have been dealt with at meetings I've attended, the CRD is continuing with the question regarding access to the Leach watershed lands by limited access permit. That's been proposed. It was defeated at the board last weekend, and what's being brought forward at the next board meeting in May is to restrict all use That bylaw had been defeated at a previous board meeting because it was a tie vote. So I don't know what the outcome of that is going to be. As mentioned from the applicant and what I talked about earlier, the whole issue of integrated resource management, which deals with looking at options in regard to the waste stream and taking a new approach or looking at a new concept as to how our waste is going to be handled within the capital region. Sooke is in a unique situation because of our biosolid waste that comes from our treatment plant. We're not under the same provisions and requirements as the sewer systems that service the other communities in the capital region and Sydney's Central Saanich and North Saanich. Even though they have their own treatment facility, that's secondary treatment, they are still required to operate and dispose of their waste by way of a CRD policy. Because Sooke is not involved in the sewer function of the CRD, we're free to choose options as to how we dispose of our biosolid waste, providing they're in an environmentally, provincially government-approved method. So those are some of the other options. I don't have any more things to say than that, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. I was traveling to Port Angeles again in the past weekend, and I noticed a couple of things. They had a huge event in Port Angeles that dealt with kayaking, and I was told that there were approximately 200 individuals there. It was a kayaking symposium, and I thought, because we have a local school here that teaches kayaking, that it might be something that that perhaps we could encourage them to pursue. And mountain biking over there is huge. They had a huge event on the weekend, and I noticed all the traffic just relating from that one-day event that I witnessed. So anyway, I just think there's some encouragement. We can learn from our neighbors to the south. I mentioned that before, and the more we can do to learn from other communities, I think the better off we'll be. So anyway, that's the extent of my report right now. Oh, last thing, this had to do with the Sea Park Commission, and there was a presentation by the seniors asking a Sea Park to consider the feasibility of doing something with a joint seniors/youth facility on Sea Park's property. So there, Bev, correct me if I'm wrong, but the commission seemed open to the idea and to encourage them to work with staff and to put some concepts together. Was it? That was my read of it anyway. There was no firm commitment, but it's just to enter into a discussion and a more open dialogue. So, and that hadn't occurred really in the past, so something new. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Loggins.
Thanks. Just to touch on what Councillor Casper said, we had that discussion actually about the seniors youth facility, specifically seniors on Sea Park lands at our community center committee last week, and I don't think it was quite what the seniors were looking for, so it may require further discussion. But on that note, the committee as a whole is going to be coming to council at a COW meeting, hopefully soon in the future, so that we can have an open dialogue on the next steps. They've done a lot of really great work as a team, and just need to work on moving forward now. I went to the Chamber Awards, of course, as well with many of the other councillors here, which was an excellent event, and very happy for all those who were nominated and who got awards. I wasn't able to attend Zero Waste Sooke, and I'm just wondering if anyone here was able to. I apologize for that and really hope that we can receive a document once those discussions are put into document form. And I attended the Victoria Family Court and Youth Justice Committee meeting on Esquimalt land. I guess that was last week as well. One of the hot topics of the day is secure care. which is a youth detainment program for high-risk youth. There are a lot of people who are very passionately pro or against that topic, but essentially it's looking at ways to help youth who are aging out of care. So hopefully we'll be able to find some solutions for that going forward.
Thank you. All I'll add is I have put into my calendar sort of when I'll be in the district office. I'm not committing to set days or hours at this time, sort of keeping it open to see how things go. I like having the flexibility, so sometimes it's mornings or afternoons, and staff know when I'm there. So if you are queried or anyone wants to know, I'll book off, say, 10 to noon, but it may not be, I might not arrive right at 10. I like having this open, flowing schedule. It's nice, actually. Just remind council that the Rotary Fair is this coming weekend. The ceremonies kick off at 10 in the morning. You know that the silent auction is on all day, I think closing around 5. There's dinner and then the live auction, and then, of course, the referendum vote at the same time. And also the Legion has invited us to participate in the Victory in Europe Day Battle of the Atlantic on Sunday. So there is the breakfast at the Legion from 9 to 11. It's $7 at the door. And if anyone is interested in joining the parade or the march, you sort of gather at noon at the Evergreen Center. It'll depart roughly around 12:15, and then the service at the Cenotaph is at 12:30. So if you're able to join me, just let me know so that I know to look for you there. Okay, excellent. So we'll move on from our reports then into R1, RI2. Pardon me, Ms. Sullivan.
I just have a very brief CAO update.
I'm sorry, I missed staff. I was just looking at council. Sorry.
I know, the hour's getting a bit late. I'll be very quick. You all have a news release on your desks that will be issued tomorrow morning and to local media tonight. It's with respect to the landscape plans for the roundabout. They're going to be currently or underway very shortly, I think beginning maybe tomorrow, with a view to have works completed before the May 10th. Celebration. So that's all very good news. You're going to see some activity on there at the roundabout. We're going to be working early mornings and evenings to avoid disruptions to traffic flow as much as possible.
Thank you for the copy of the report. That's great. We look forward to seeing that out. Okay. Was that it for staff? Okay. Okay, we're moving along. Thank you. Into RI2, Quarterly Fire Department Report. Our chief is here, as well as the report. Any questions from council on the report? Any highlights from the chief that you'd like to share?
Thank you. Just a quick correction on the first page. It says fourth quarter. At the bottom, it should say first.
Okay, good eye. Thank you very much.
Missed it the first time, so it's only one good eye.
There we are.
Just to a few good news things, I guess. Our recruit class has graduated and are on probation now, so they've received pagers and been assigned to work with the crews, and their basic training is all done. So they've joined the Thursday night ranks. So we have 5 new members. One at Station 2, one is in Sun River, and then 3 are up here. So that's pretty welcome. Call volume seems to be roughly on par with last year, just a slight increase, but then that was a huge increase from the year before. What's most noticeable is that the calls seem to be more serious in nature than they were last year. We're approaching about $1 million in loss already for the year. So pretty substantial. And we had our first brush fire of the year on the weekend, so starting to show how dry it's getting already. It's a little unusual. It was a bit of a sad news, but there was 10 members of the department went in and participated in the memorial service and the march for Constable Beckett out of Langford. So it was a really good showing by all the emergency services for that sad day. So that's about it.
Councillor Ray, then Casper.
Thank you. Chief, I see that we're going to get the mobile simulator for the earthquake, which sounds quite exciting. And I see it's for Sunday, May the 22nd. Do we know what kind of time that'll be here? The reason is I think there'll be a lot of interest.
We have it for 6 hours.
6 hours.
So there's an hour set up on either side, and we have it operating for 6 hours, so roughly 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. It'll be at the fire hall. There'll be other events. The province will be here with some displays and some other things that go with it. So to give you an idea of what it would be like, it's what they went through in Ecuador. So it'll be roughly the same magnitude. You get to strap into a couch and they rattle your bones.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I think it.
Yeah.
I think one of the things is we often think is well, it won't happen to us. You know, so I think for people to be able to have an opportunity to experience something like that, I think is a great opportunity. So thanks for getting that here.
Yeah, I think it'll be a real eye-opener for people. So they said they can do about 100 people an hour, so we should be able to get about 500 to 600 people through if we get a good turnout. Yeah.
I'll be there.
And we're well insured.
Okay. Ms. Sullivan, can you maybe have staff tweet that out, or just, I think it'll be...
Absolutely, as we get closer to the event, we'll
I
get some
booked
media.
a spot on the Sea Park sign, too.
Oh, good. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Was there another, Councillor Casper? Yes.
So it is a question, but it's not necessarily to do with your report, but it does affect your operation. So last week I attended the symposium on land-based spill preparedness and response in British Columbia. So it was an overview presented by the province, and there were a number of participants from all over, first responders and emergency people from different municipal and even rural jurisdictions. There were a couple of things that I learned. One was that we are now going to be required to perhaps do more. If the province, if this new legislation comes in and if the new regulations come in, there will be more responsibility put on local first responders. Currently, some aren't even doing it.
Yes.
And I know we are, and because we're involved with the CRD program, yes, and we do it on our own. But we're not just talking big giant spills in the water. We're talking all types of spills. A spill is oil or whatever, some kind of a material on the road because of a car accident. So I appreciate all the work that we've done. We're in many respects well ahead of others. But the other thing I gleaned, and it was a comment made from somebody from Delta, and an issue I raised was that we don't get any compensation, little compensation from anybody on the costs that we incur for responding to spills. But this gentleman from Delta said, well, we bill ICBC for whatever our costs on cleaning up a spill in relation to an accident, a car accident, motor vehicle accident. So I just throw that out as an option, to the finance and everybody. If you're dealing with a ICBC-related incident, put together numbers for your costs and submit those bills, and don't be shy about it, because if other jurisdictions are doing it, I think we should do it. And I think we should consider our staff time, because we're the ones paying the freight to clean up something that people are insured for, which isn't fair. So anyway.
I'm not sure where you got your information, because I touched base with ICBC 2 years ago, and what we were told was we would have to bill the vehicle owner, and then they would go after ICBC to recoup it through their insurance, which I didn't think would work very well. We do get a lot of our stuff disposed of now through the tow company, so we're no longer on the hook for that, because they get reimbursed through ICBC. But I'd certainly like to look into that. If we can bill them directly, that would be
and
wonderful.
And gentleman was from Delta, so you may want to contact that jurisdiction.
Touch base with Delta.
And he specified on their municipal roads. He didn't mention highways, but he mentioned municipal roads. But who knows? Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Worth a shot.
Mr. Blackwell?
Yeah, through the chair, I'd just like to add, we have actually submitted some claims for reimbursement to ICBC and been successful with it. So
Good.
not necessarily spill related, but definitely property damage related. So
Okay, so I'll look for a motion to receive the report. Moved by Councillor Pearson, seconded by Councillor Parkinson. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Oh, sorry,
No, would it go to the Fire Commission too, this report?
do the reports? Yes.
Okay, great.
Yep. Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Chief. Moving on to correspondence for information, RI 3, Park Maintenance Service Agreement Report. There's a verbal update. Ms. Sullivan?
Yes, a verbal update. An in-depth staff report will be coming in 2 weeks to Mayor and Council, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that we've done a preliminary analysis of the cost benefit of keeping it on a contract basis or bringing it in-house. And it looks right now as though the district could save about $6,800 a year by bringing it in-house and provide better services to our residents. So that's just a heads up. That's going to be coming in 2 weeks.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Any questions? Okay. We'll just move on then. Next one then is the correspondence for information. Information and correspondence received from April 5th to 19th. I just have a few comments here. There's an April 8th one, a request for a letter of recognition for retirement petty officer. It is we're a bit sort of after the date, but I do wish to send that letter if council is in support of that. So moved by Councillor Casper and seconded by Councillor Parkinson to send the letter of recognition. It'll be signed by myself. All in favor of that motion? Carried unanimously. Thank you. There was a request from the Sioux Country Market Society requesting for a permanent home in consideration of the library lands. I have sent an email to the group just notifying them that we need to go through a proper visioning process and the like for that land. So at that time, we would look to the community for their feedback. So they sent a thank you for that. There's also a proclamation in here for May's Motorcycle Awareness Month. I would also like to do that, just given the nature of the circle route and the amount of motorcycle traffic we attract. I think that would be a very positive. It's very timely, so I'd like council to moved by Councillor Logans, seconded by Councillor Casper, and that is to do the proclamation. Any discussion on that? And then they always get framed, and I take pictures of them and post them. I think it's a positive thing. Okay. So all those in favor, opposed, carried unanimously. I think that was it that I had on the correspondence. The other one, that's the question I had. With the one I wasn't sure if it was them advising us that the Lieutenant Governor has that proclamation in place, or were they looking for us to also do one? I sort of looked at it more that they were advising us of the proclamation, that they have made this they have proclaimed, and I wasn't sure. That's sort of how I took that. Yeah. I mean, we could also do the proclamation as well, but I just sort of looked at it that way. So, Councillor Ray?
Yes, and I was just, in terms of the BC Homeowner Grant Program that's from the City of Burnaby, were they looking for support from other municipalities? I know it didn't say, but I'm not. Maybe it was just for information as opposed to. Yeah.
It just seems like they're sharing it for information. I didn't see. Yeah. Okay. Councillor Casper?
Well, is that the one that's all blacked out?
No.
The one right after?
Yeah.
It's on better equitable
It is a part of that email, and she probably should have, I don't know, maybe BCC'd. It's like a whole page of email addresses, and that's why it's blacked out like that. You know, like maybe when you send that many emails, you could, but that's okay. We received it, so it was just sort of, that's the one though, yes. It just sort of looked like it. Yeah.
Okay, so what about, okay, there's one from the Minister Fassbender. In regards
Yes.
to the, if I may, sorry.
Go ahead, yep.
No, it has to deal with, what do you call that? That's in the Uber,
Yes.
right? And so he's asking communities for input on it. Isn't that what it is? It has to do
believe
with
so.
providing passenger service or looking at its companies such
Yeah.
as Uber, Lyft, and
Air
who? Airbnb may present opportunities to meet changing public expectations. So I think it's something, you know, we're going to have to respond. And I
Yes.
don't, but, you know, I just want to, before we even think about responding, just remind people that we've been approached, I think, 2 or 3 times from the local taxi, or at least twice by the local taxi company and by another taxi company to expand licensing
Yes.
for our area, right? And one of the things that you're starting to see or hear all these concerns about Uber and these other outfits that perhaps these drivers aren't fully licensed or may not be adequately insured.
I think when I saw this, and I agree with you, Councillor Casper, I don't want to put a lot on staff, but I think when I looked at this, I kind of know what Uber is, never heard of the other two, so I wasn't going to fire off an email when I have no, I don't know what these things
But-
are, and they haven't, so they're new things, obviously, that may or may not come into the area. So in terms of sending a letter, I think it's just, is there any way we could just get just very brief information on what these things are and if they're sort of circulating out in here so that we know in terms of, and I've heard the same about the uninsured, a safety, the insurance and sort of a safety perspective. It's kind of like hitching a ride and, you know, so that's, but I don't know how much these other ones have moved into this area.
And I was just going to add that in light of what I saw in the news or the different sources of mess or public information, the mayor of Calgary's comments that were webcasts or whatever, they weren't all that, I guess, glowing in regard to the Uber people. But anyway.
I wasn't sure if it was his comments or was it Uber that.
Well, I think they were on the recipient or the receiving end of his comments. But anyway, that seemed to make a lot of play. But I have mixed emotions truly because I know how rigorous it is for taxis to get licenses.
Yeah.
And what they are compelled by the province to do in order to provide that service.
Mr.
Like it's huge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr.
and
Joseph?
so-
Your Worship, I'm not recommending the council do nothing, although I've seen this, these issues play out in another province where I was recently working, and it was a major fight. As a small municipality, you might want to maybe contact some of the other municipalities that are a bit larger who are really going to be dealing with these issues like Uber, because there were some. The licensing issue comes back to provincial regulations, which is beyond our scope as well. So, this is. If these go forward, this will be a discussion for a long time. So, don't feel you need to be in any hurry. I don't think to try to influence public policy at the provincial level.
Yeah. So we can just.
But he is asking for a comment.
Yeah.
Well,
and
if we
free
find
gifts,
it
so,
to
yeah.
be, I think we have a motion to receive. Okay. No, I mean, we get so many of these. We don't necessarily. It's just if you're interested, respond, and they get sent to everybody, which is why we got that big blacklist.
on TV saying that he didn't support it.
Well, there you go. Okay, so I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of receipt? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay, and then in terms of the other correspondence on here, just look for a motion to receive those. Moved by Councillor Pearson, seconded by Councillor Loggins. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much.
So if I may.
No, we're called the question.
No. I'm just going to add something in regard to correspondence and stuff. So there will be something that's going to come forward at our next council meeting, and it's again correspondence, and the province is wanting to know what our municipal opinion is on a 2-cent gas tax. The CRD, through the Transit Commission, and what had happened was the Transit Commission went and approached them and said, okay, well, we want to get gas tax, 2 cents. So the minister, and it was the Minister of Transportation responsible for transit, said, okay, well, I want you to solicit, go out and ask the opinion. So opinions do count, all right? They really do, so.
I agree with you, but I think this is where we can choose where it's relevant and we need to respond, right? And where it fits. Yes. Okay, so I would like a motion to close the meeting to the public so that we can move in camera. Moved by Councillor Pearson, second by Councillor Loggins. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. And we'll just have a quick recess and go in camera.